Hello, you huggable lollipop. I am Joseph the Huggist, and this is movie review in question marks. I really need to change that title to my movie thoughts. So today it's Friday the 13th, and well, it's not Friday the 13th, but the movie is Friday the 13th, and we're coming up on its 40th anniversary. So I figured it would be the perfect time. It was released May 9th, 1980, budgeted for 700,000. That's pretty cheap. Crystal Lake's history of murderer does not deter counselors from setting up a summer camp in the woody area. Suspicious locals warned against it, but fresh-faced young people Jack, Alice, Bill, Marcy, and Ned pay little heed to the old-timers. They find themselves stalked by a brutal killer as they are slashed, shot, and stabbed. The counselors struggle to stay alive against a menacing opponent. So I've seen this movie quite a few times at this point, so how many times I've lost interest meter for this one would be inaccurate because I've seen it so many times I didn't really need to pay attention to it the whole way, so it was at 0. Usually that's more for movies I don't remember all that much. Alright, so my thoughts. So a minute into the movie we hear the iconic music from Friday the 13th, which made me think, does the fact that it was a pretty good movie make it iconic, or was that music always destined to be iconic? Sort of a hidden gem if it was a bad movie. I was thinking about that for a while. The camp counselors who get killed in the very beginning of the movie, the girl counselor who got killed in the beginning of the movie, she did a very good job in that shot. I genuinely thought she was afraid. Pretty good acting on her point, in my opinion. I didn't catch the guy's name, but he's been up there for a year trying to reopen the camp. Why doesn't Mrs. Voorhees stop him in that whole year? I mean, she actually had a whole year to kill the counselor. I mean, the guy who's trying to reopen it, before he actually reopened it. He could have, before he even got anywhere close. Doesn't really make... Killing one person is way easier than trying to kill, what was it, 6, 7? Poor planning. So Kevin Bacon is in this movie, and I always thought it was cool that him, Johnny Depp, Jamie Lee Curtis, and a whole lot of other big movie stars got some breaks in horror movies, in memorable horror movies. I always thought that was amazing. I don't know why, but I always think of those actors, and then whenever I think of them, oh yeah, they started out in horror first. So there's a scene where there's a snake in Alice's room, and they're hunting and they end up killing it. And it actually, and this part always gets me, it actually looks like they ended up killing a real live snake for the scene, and I really hope that's not true, but it really looked realistic. So there's a scene where Kevin Bacon turns on an emergency generator. And he does it with such ease that I really made me believe that during this time Kevin Bacon can turn on anything, no sweat. So my next thought, the arrow through the neck is definitely one of the most gruesome horror kills in horror history, in my opinion. But it was kind of nice that Mrs. Voorhees let them finish up having sex before she actually killed him. I mean, that was real nice of her. She didn't need to do that, but she chose to. Gosh darn it, the axe to the face was a very gruesome, graphic kill. Like, a lot of the kills in this movie were super graphic. And I always forget how graphic the first one was. Forgetting that it was made in the 80s and all that. Like, seeing this made in the 70s, premiered in the 80s. Or was it made in the early 80s? Not sure. But made in the late 70s or early 80s. That I don't think of horror films from that era because horror's not really my genre most of the time. So I don't really watch them or go looking for them. This one is very, like, I remember this one horror movie where it's literally an elevator killing people. Like, horror's not my thing. It's never been my jam. But the arrow to the neck and the axe of it, everything's so graphic. It's very disturbing. So, Crazy Ralph is married. There's something that I never knew. That crazy guy that's spouting down nonsense all this time is actually married. Go figure. Guess there really is someone for everyone. The lack of music in this movie gives it a real eerie atmosphere. There is some music, but not when it's like scenes are going on, but I love when there's no music and that lets you focus in on what's actually happening. How strong is Mrs. Voorhees? She was able to lift Bill up to the door and stick him with arrows and have him hang there. That's pretty impressive. Like, Jason, we all come accustomed to his freakishly strong nature, but he got that apparently from Mrs. Voorhees, who didn't have the regenerative health problems that Jason did, but quite clearly has his super strength. It really is convenient that Mrs. Voorhees and David have the same exact Jeep in the same exact color and like perfect match for everything. Almost like they were lacking a big budget and had to reuse vehicles. By the way, there was a scene in the movie where, what was her name? Alice was running around in the kitchen and she's saying what she's gonna do, and as the one counselor gets thrown through the window, she looks at her, she screams, and then starts slowly making her way out of the room. Her jacket gets caught on the oven, and I don't know if that's a planned action or if it was improvised, that she just takes it off like that, but I thought it was a really cool scene. So Alice must be really strong as hell. Must be strong as hell to knock off Mrs. Voorhees' head with one swipe of a machete, or her adrenaline had her pumped up so much that she was able to do it. Quite impressive. Also, is that why Jason uses a machete? Does he use the same machete that was used on his mother to get revenge for his mother? Never thought of that. Never really noticed it. Huh. Pretty good movie there. So out of 1 out of 10, it's a 6 for me. Out of 5, it's a 3. Horror's not my jam. But I really like some of the Friday the 13th movies. This has actually been quicker. I didn't have that many thoughts on this movie. But the game sucks. It's a pretty bad game. The new game, the newer one on like PS4, I think it's on Steam and Switch and stuff. That's a pretty cool game. I really enjoy that game. So, I'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with me for about 10 minutes. The rest of the gameplay was just going to play out. See ya. Bye.